Welcome to Our College, Your Voices. I am your host, Kara Monroe. Today I'm coming to you live from the First Generation Celebration at our Indianapolis campus. National First Generation College Celebration is recognized at colleges across the country during the week of November 8th. Join Ivy Tech on many campuses in recognizing the achievements of our first generation college students and increase your awareness of how we can best support their needs, both during that week and all year long. We're going to be hearing from staff and faculty who are celebrating first generation students on the Indianapolis campus for this third annual week of celebrations. It's our hope that through increased awareness and greater focus on the resiliency and value first generation students bring to the college, we can continue to advocate for change that helps not only support the needs of first generation students, but for all of the students at Ivy Tech. Today, I'm joined by Josh Van Biber, Director of TRIO Student Support Services, and one of the many responsible for today's event. Josh, let's get to meeting folks and tell us just a little bit more about today's episode. So I'm here with Josh Van Biber, and Josh, tell us a little bit about how Indianapolis is marking First Generation Student Week this year.
Yeah. So Indianapolis is partnering with our TRIO Student Support Services program, Student Life, and Academic Affairs, and some other departments around the college. And we are putting together a week full of events to recognize the achievements of first-gen students and to bring more awareness to how the college and the staff and faculty here can help create a more successful environment for first-gen students.
And we celebrate around November 8th for First Gen Student Week, our First Gen events. Can you tell me what the significance of that date and this time of the year is for this population?
Yeah, so November 8th of 1965 was the signing of the Higher Education Act, and that created the suite of TRIO programs that now exist. And TRIO is not actually an abbreviation for anything. It just refers to the original three programs, Upward Bound, Talent Search, and Student Support Services that help serve low-income students, first-gen students, and students with disabilities.
Excellent. I didn't know that. I don't know if we got to that in our last conversation about this, so that's awesome. We are standing, first of all, I'm really excited because we are standing in a room together in person. But tell me a little bit about some of the activities that are going on here today that folks can hear the music over the loudspeakers and the microphone from.
Yeah, so we've got our first gen game of life happening today in the Illinois Fall Creek Center on the Indianapolis campus. And we've got students milling in and out. They can take advantage of some specialty coffee drinks and apple cider. We've got some cake to celebrate the week as well. And then we are playing a first gen specific version of the game of life. So students will start with a career, many of which they can earn with certificates or degrees from Ivy Tech, and then they will navigate life's challenges and some of the more specific things that students who are first gen may not have the full context for without some of the support and assistance they receive here.
Excellent. And are you a first gen student?
I'm not first gen myself, but I've been with our TRIO program for a little over 2 years and serving first gen students in that capacity and prior at the college as well.
Excellent. Well, I will not ask you to share your first gen story, but it's good to know that we all have a role to play in supporting students who are first gen. It's just helping to understand how we leverage our own story and our own experiences to share that with them.
Absolutely.
Hi, I'm Susan Hawkins-Wilding. I'm the Assistant Vice President for Academic Advising here at Ivy Tech.
And I know you're a first-gen student. Would you tell us your first-gen story?
Sure. I'm the first person in my family to go to college. Growing up, it just wasn't something that anybody talked about or that we were supposed to do or really was necessarily encouraged. And where I'm from, it's more working class steel mill, kind of go out there and get a job kind of thing, and other challenges as a woman and expectations of maybe you could go into teaching or something like that. And so I don't know, my friends and I talked about it now that we're older about how we always had that instilled in us that we wanted to go to college, and so we applied and I went to my local institution, and I think I was a little lost in it, but I didn't feel I could fail because I don't think a lot of people were expecting me to succeed either.
That's an interesting motivation because you had to be your own cheerleader. You had to do that for yourself. Mm-hmm. So as a first-gen employee or for an employee who's a first-gen student, what's the importance of using our first-gen stories when we work with students?
I've got so many great things to say here. First of all, that we belong, that a first-gen student should be in college, that it is that it is part of our identity that we can do it. And two, there's so much that we don't know as a first gen. And while I succeeded and completed my degree, I think now as a person in a college, I didn't know about all the opportunities I could have explored and used, and didn't have, like, where could I be had I known those things? And so I'm so excited today that we spend more time thinking about this so that we as educators can help students know about the hidden benefits, like the hidden things that as a first gen we don't know, that we don't have the family member to tell us how to navigate. And so that's what's exciting for me.
So I'm here with two of the participants in the First Gen celebration here in Indy, and I'll allow them to introduce themselves.
Sherry Moore, Interim Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs.
Ebony Frizzle, Associate Director of Academic Advising and Transfer Advocate for Central Indiana.
Excellent. So tell me a little bit about, Sherry, we'll start with you. Tell me a little bit about your First Gen story.
My first gen story, I was the first person in my family to go to college, and I actually went to college with my daughter. So my daughter and I had the opportunity to go to IU Bloomington as a first generation student. My family was supportive of higher education, but didn't necessarily know the language of higher education. And so I had the opportunity to learn, not necessarily the easy way, what higher education meant. And terms like bursar, registrar, what's a dean, things that we didn't hear about in high school. But it was an amazing experience. And my favorite part of my story is that family members who watched my journey ended up getting their degrees. My mother got an associate's degree. My sister has gotten 2 degrees now. Several of my cousins have gotten degrees. They kind of follow in your path. And I always tell students, you never know who's watching you. Mm-hmm. Some people may have comments, they may say things to you, but they're watching you and will often follow your path.
So true. Ebony, what's your First Gen story?
Yes, my first gen story is I was the first person in my family to go to college. At the time when I decided to make that step to further my education, I was married, 2 babies. My mom had worked at McDonald's all her life. I was starting to fall in that footpath, and I just having both my daughters, both my pregnancies, I was working at McDonald's, and I was like, this is not for me. And so I'm glad I made that decision. My kids have always been my motivation to persevere and pursue. And so I'm happy to say that they've seen me graduate with 3 degrees. And so I just, following the advice of my grandparents, have really instilled that education, the importance of education. And I'm glad I listened, because it's really been life-changing. Because of this, I really found my passion in higher education, and this is why I love just working within this field, is because the impact you can have on student experience, the engagement piece. I really love connecting with students, because based on my experience of connecting with faculty and being part of TRIO, it really helped me to persist. It was a time where I didn't think I was going to make it through Ivy Tech, because a lot of life things were happening. And because of TRIO and applying through the application, able to receive money just to repair my van, allowed me still to continue my dream of getting my education. So this is my first year story, and I just love being a part of this community and to be able to share my story.
That's awesome. How do you both, and Sherry, you alluded to this a little bit, but how do you both tell students, or how do you use your story to help students and to encourage them?
For me, it's letting students know that as a young mom, taking my daughter on that journey with me. A lot of people are not told, you can go to college and you can have, still be a parent. Sometimes people think they can't do it. So I will sometimes share my story with students to let them know not only can you do it, but you have little ones that come along the journey with you, and they're also watching you. And my daughter ended up being an Ivy Tech alum, graduating with her nursing degree. And so that was a great opportunity. She even worked here full-time as an employee. And so it was great to see how things came full circle. And I tell students to understand that you don't know 10 years from now what the impact of the journey is that you take today, and that there are plenty of people here who will support you. And one of my favorite stories is, I've babysat I had a student hand me her baby, one of my former trio students, who handed me her little girl and said, "My babysitter failed. I have a French final exam here." She handed me the baby. She handed me the diaper bag. I said, "Wait, what's her name?" Right. Like, hold on. But I literally sat there and we watched little cartoon stuff on the computer and all of that and entertained the baby till she finished her final. And I said, there are so many faculty here that care and that will do what's necessary to help students be successful.
Yeah. For me as an academic advisor, just hearing these students' stories of what they're going through and how I can relate, some of it has been experience that they are going through a traumatic experience. It's just like, you can get through this, letting them know, start changing your verbiage because it begins on what you speak and those affirmations. So instead of saying, I can't, saying, I can. Or when things come about, how might I? Being solution-oriented because things are going to happen, but it's about how you work through those things. And to get to those outcomes that you're wanting to get to is what's going to help you to be able to rock it off and succeed and get you to your goals. So it's about help coaching them and guiding them through many steps. Sometimes for a student, they need the whole picture broken down into many steps. So I'm glad with my experience, here as a student, because I didn't know academic advising existed, I connected with my faculty that really taught and guided me on different things. And so using that to be able to connect with my students. And so that's really been awesome to be able to have that experience, to be able to connect with my students. And at the end of the session, they are so happy. Sometimes I get emails saying, thank you so much for caring, because some of our students, they don't have a cheerleader. And when they come to Ivy Tech, they have a whole slew of people that's cheerleading for them.
Thank you both so much. I'm excited to have brought this episode to you. It was fun to be with faculty and staff for this event. I know some students came by after I had to step out, but I just want to remind you that we do end every episode with a call to action. Identify who your first generation students and the staff, faculty, administrators are at your campus. Collaborate with admissions to identify and serve students who apply to the college and indicate that they're first gen. Learn ways that you can better support them. Incorporate your own first generation story into your curriculum and your classroom, and identify when students might need support services that they might not need because they don't know the language of college. Refer them to those supports when they need. And share and participate in celebrations of first-generation students. You can always check the website, whether if you missed this year's celebration and you want to know what's going on for next year, it's ivytech.edu/firstgen, FIRSTGEN, and I will put a link to that in the show notes. Thanks again for joining this episode of Our College, Your Voices. I want to thank today's sort of assistant producer, and that's Josh Van Biber, who is Director of Trio Support Services here at the Indianapolis campus, and to all of the staff and faculty who joined in our conversation today. I'm your host, Kara Monroe. You can connect with me on Twitter at K&M Tweets. Our producer is Sarah Ferguson. You can reach us by email at ourcollegeyourvoices@ivytech.edu. Don't forget, if you're an Ivy Tech faculty or staff member, you can join our Microsoft Teams listener community. Instructions on that come out every Thursday. Our website, where you'll find links to our show notes, is ivytech.edu/podcast. Production assistance for this and every episode provided by Becky Campbell and the Ivy Tech Community College Creative Services team. Our podcast concept is by Matthew Pittman. The music and post-production services provided by Jen Eads at the Brassy Broadcasting Company. We'll talk to you next time on Our College, Your Voices.